Behavior has been silently killing one of Dead by Daylight's largest chunk of maps, and most players have absolutely no idea it's happening. It's barely on any patch notes, practically nobody has talked about it, and it's an issue that's almost been swept completely under the rug, despite how prevalent it's become. This issue is so bad that I stopped all progress on another video to talk about it. What started as me making a video about the history of some DBD maps has turned into an all-around conspiracy theory about what could be a bug, but could also be a very intentional choice by Behavior. Today, we're talking about how Behavior has been quietly destroying the Coldwind maps for a while, and turned one of the worst realms for killers to play into one of the freest wins you could dream of. Once upon a time, there was nothing worse than picking a killer and loading into a match only to find out you had to play in the Coldwind realm. Thanks to the large map sizes of Thompson House, Rotten Fields, or Fractured Cowshed, or the incredibly strong windows on Rancid Abattoir and Torment Creek, there was almost no escape from the suffering that these maps would put on you. Even killers with good chase abilities had a hard time, with killers like Doctor and Hillbilly struggling due to the amount of power survivors had at their fingertips. Even putting those issues aside, Coldwind maps are also notorious for their ability to place many strong loops in the same area, allowing survivors to chain together great tiles with ease. Some maps were worse than others, with Fractured Cowshed and Rotten Fields being the worst of the worst due to Rotten Fields' massive size and Fractured Cowshed's tile spawns. For what feels like forever, Coldwind Farm garnered the reputation of being the worst set of maps for killers, even putting maps like Old Ormond to shame depending on how awful your RNG was. Thanks to Behavior and the game itself maturing over time, some of the issues were really dialed down. Huge maps like Thompson House, Rotten Fields, and Fractured Cowshed were cut down in size, while the broken windows on the remaining maps were fixed by placing a door next to them, giving killers a better chance at running main buildings against survivors. Later on, even the map's overall look was changed, opting for a brighter Texas Chainsaw Massacre sunset style look instead of the darker brownish yellow tint the map used to have, a topic that many still debate about today. Some think it looks less atmospheric, while some like the new, brighter design. I'm still on the fence about it, I like both, but it doesn't really matter right now. Things were definitely looking good for the future of the maps. While they still had some flaws, they were being pushed in the right direction. Eventually, even Fractured Cowshed received some massive changes, with the entire layout being altered to stop strong tiles from appearing one after another. While the map was much weaker than it used to be, most people didn't complain very much, given the map's history of being utterly broken. Things were looking pretty optimistic for the future of the Coldwind realm. It still needed some work, but generally, they were much better maps and well designed. However, it was over half a year ago, I think, when new loops began popping up around Coldwind Farm. I'm having the hardest time finding out what these structures are even called or when they specifically began being added. The loop in question isn't even listed on the wiki. It's like some mythological creature that's been removed from any records, only being seen to be believed. The most I can find is a video of Scott's from 8 months ago where he talks about the same thing I'm about to, or a few Reddit posts where people are complaining about how weak they are. The loops I'm talking about are these ones on Coldwind Farm, where there's a very weak palette with an okay window on the other side of it. These tiles are very easy to get a hit at when playing killer. If the survivor vaults the window, all you have to do is chase them back around to the pallet and force them to drop it. Due to the short wall near the pallet, it's easy to lunge around it and hit survivors while they have to pray they win the 50-50. While this tile is pretty bad, it wouldn't matter very much if there were like 1 or 2 of them on the map. But I've seen these tiles spawn 3 or 4 times. It's like some parasitic worm that's weaved its way into the bowels of the Coldwind realm, taking up space for other better tiles to spawn. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be calling these tiles tick loops, because they're parasites. They're draining resources out of the map. You understand what I'm saying. Tick loops have almost completely stopped most chances of regular jungle gym spawning, loops that are much better designed and well liked by the community. I went into a few games to record some footage for my other video and was shocked at how often these spawn. On certain Coldwind maps, these can spawn quite commonly in the place of regular jungle gyms, pallet loops, or TL walls. I've seen 4 of these spawn at a time, sometimes being directly next to each other, making the map they spawn on significantly weaker by default.
Oh hey, another one. There's 3.
Oh, and she got hooked in basement. Great.
Wait, there's 3. There's 4! There's 4 of those stupid ass tiles. Why? Why are they spawning like this? I don't get it.
Skrump has a vendetta against these tiles.
Any killer with an okay chase power is going to turn a map with many loops like this into Swiss cheese, which is most of them given how abundant and popular chase-oriented killers are. Even M1 killers can make pretty quick work of these loops. There's practically nothing you can do as a survivor to avoid getting hit at one of these unless you play it absolutely perfectly and somehow manage to chain it with another tile, which is obviously very dependent on the RNG of the map. That's not to say Coldwind maps won't spawn jungle gyms, but based on the games I've played, it's much more common to get tick loops on Coldwind maps, specifically Rotten Fields, Torment Creek, and Fractured Cowshed. I have no idea what's causing this, but it almost seems like a bug. Even without the tick loops, I've seen these maps also spawn 3 TL walls right next to each other, which I don't think should be happening, right? Maybe you guys have seen other things, but I personally don't see this really happening on any other maps. It's just a Coldwind thing. On Macmillan, generation seems normal. Same with Auto Haven, same with Crota's Pren, let's be real. But I only see this happening on Coldwind Farm. It's just weird. I've done a lot of digging through DBD patch notes to find any sort of mention of these loops being added or any mention of Coldwind being changed in general. In the 8.3.0 PTB around September 2024, they listed a change which says, updated the map tile generation to reduce chances of bugs in the future. You may see certain tiles appearing more or less commonly than before. This could be when it started happening. It's certainly the only time frame I can seem to find people talking about it, but I kept digging. I found a post from further back, specifically the 8.1.0 PTB, which is June 25th, 2024, where they say the following. Added variations to the maze tiles in the pool of tiles for the Coldwind Farm realm. I think this is where tick loops were added in the first place. It does seem to line up with the timeline from before and would make sense why the loops were in the game for a good amount of time before people started noticing them appearing more and more often. This seems to be the ground zero for this issue, and the subsequent change involving the map tile generation seems to be where this issue really started. It's something I've certainly known about for a while, but only really started putting the puzzle pieces together when I noticed in custom games, and then I can't stop noticing in pubs now. Seriously, just take my word for it, go into a public game using a Coldwind offering or go into a custom game and just look at the generation and you'll clearly see what I'm talking about. So what now? What can we do about this? Well, given how hard it is to find any information about this issue, it's likely it won't be fixed for a while unless we make us think about it. Based on how they say updated map tile generation in the patch notes, I have a feeling it has to be a bug. There's just no way they'd purposely ruin the maps, right? Maybe not. Coldwind had the reputation of being completely broken in favor of survivors for a long time, so having it swing in favor of killers all of a sudden feels a little too intentional for me to believe it's just some crazy bugged coincidence. Maybe due to the realm's shaky history, Behavior wanted to absolutely nuke the map in order for that reputation to slowly crumble and fall away, only to change it later down the line and build a new reputation for it. But there's even some issues with that logic. If Behavior was that worried about the reputation of their maps, other maps like The Game and Disturbed Ward would have been split in half a while ago. Sure, we've seen some other strong maps get changed in order to be more fun, but why would they give some maps attention and not others, even keeping things like statistics in mind? I'm completely drawing a blank here. I have genuinely no idea. Intentional or not, tick loops and Coldwind's map generation in general certainly needs to be looked at and fixed. There's no reason that jungle gyms should have an equal or even lower chance of spawning as much as worse loops do. It makes the map so much harder to run when playing Survivor, and most killers are going to do a great job at stopping chases quickly. If you lose on Coldwind as killer, typically it'll be because the map size or really bad luck. Both of those things aren't your fault, it's just luck of the draw, and it's the same situation for Survivors too. I don't understand why some maps are left in the absolutely bork state they're in, while the Coldwind maps can barely even spawn strong tiles. It just doesn't make fun games for either side. This might be a hot take, but killers typically like to express their strength and familiarity with the killer they're playing, and survivors want to do the same with their ability to loop. Behavior needs to find out why Coldwind maps are generating the way they are, because it's making some games absolutely awful. I'm not saying that Coldwind maps can't spawn strong tiles, because they can, but based on how many games I've played on them recently, it seems like they're getting harder and harder to lose on when playing killer, and that bothers me a ton. Let me know if you guys have noticed this too. Maybe I'm just absolutely crazy and I had some games where I just had consistently bad RNG and just making a video on absolutely nothing, but let me know if you guys have experienced this too. But as of right now, that's it for me, gamers. Have a great day.
No.
Of course I got a skill check, so I couldn't.
Distractor.